Back to the new Sports Radio 910 The Fan, now 105.1 FM. I'm Adam Epstein. You're listening to AWadd Radio. Phone lines are open if you want to chime in throughout the show. 833-804-0910. That's 833-804-0910. Now it's time to hop around college hoops with my guy Marcus Mook Washington from Making the Cut with Mook joining me right now on the Hadid Mercer Rug Cleaning Hotline. What's going on, Mook?
Hey, how you doing, my man? Doing great.
I'm glad to talk to you again. College basketball season now in full swing. How about those games last night? Some fun early season action. Let's start with Gonzaga's dismantling of Kentucky. Drew Timme back for another year, and he was great last night with 22 points and 7 rebounds.
Yeah, Mark Few really helped Timme out. I thought it was a great game plan. If you notice, a lot of times when Drew got the ball, it was in the middle of the floor, taking away Kentucky's ability to double him. And because Timme has extended his game out to be able to put the ball on the floor from 17, 18 feet, he continuously got to the front of the rim, and Kentucky got in a lot of foul trouble. You know, Oscar Schriebe, basically lived the second half with 4 fouls on him. And also, Few not having Timme really on the big guy. He put Anton Schriebe, and I think that helped save Timme on the offensive side.
Number 5, Baylor takes down number 8, UCLA. I'm wondering, how good is this top 5 Baylor's Bear team this season?
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. You talk about bad luck. UCLA went into Vegas and lost 2 games against 2 top 10 teams. Oh, I think Baylor is what they've been under Drew. They're solid defensively. Offensively, they're very good. You got to take away that UVA game because they got completely blitzed by the Cavaliers. But, again, they're a team that's going to push the ball up. That no-middle defense philosophy has gotten them deep into the tournament. And Baylor is one of those ones that we're going to be talking about in March, having a chance to get to that final weekend.
You mentioned UVA. The Cavs earned a massive win out of conference over number 16 Illinois. Reese Beekman leads the Cavs with 17 points and 3 steals.
Yeah, the UVA, I think they are the storyline early on in the entire country.
Wow.
Because everyone always talks about UVA and the defense and the pack line. How good is this team offensively? Go back to the Baylor game, and you saw Armand Franklin, Keaton Shedrick, along with Ben Vanderplas, have this big game. They blitz out Baylor early on with their offense, and then you turn around the very next day against Illinois, another top 10 opponent. You get 3 different guys in Beekman and Gardner and Clark having a big game. I think this is the team, one of the few teams in the country that on offense can win with different guys, like 3 different guys showing up. And that's just not, in college basketball, that's not common. They go 6 deep. If you look at their KenPom numbers, UVA's offense looks like, like 99 Dukes in a way. They can shoot that 3-point ball. They can go inside, outside. And look what they did to Illinois down at the end of that game. It was 3:42 left. UVA was down by 2 points. They closed the game on a 13-4 run. Coming out of a timeout, they get a great ATO that gets them to the foul line. And then after that, they force a turnover. Beekman gets the 3-point play. And then the defense kind of took over. But the offense, this UVA offense, converts from defense to offense. That transition's so quick. And they get out in their run. Hands down, the top story early on in college basketball.
I love the way you put that, man. 4-0 to start the season, and like you said, 2 wins, big wins in a row over number 5 Baylor and number 19 Illinois. And over the next month of basketball, they will have some tough tests as they travel to face Michigan Tuesday, November 29th, and then a game against number 3 Houston on Saturday, December 17th. So let me ask you again. Are they talented enough? Are they deep enough to compete and actually win this ACC in the regular season with teams like Duke and UNC?
Absolutely. And Duke's youth, I think, will show, even though the youth is very good, but I don't think that Duke, I don't classify them as extremely deep, and I certainly don't classify North Carolina as extremely deep. Once again, even though they got Puff Johnson back this past weekend, Hubert Davis still has a really short bench. He's still really only playing 7 guys. This UVA team, because of their offense, and I can't believe I'm saying this, their offense can bail them out of games when they don't play well defensively. And they can play well defensively now in like spurts and stretches, and it doesn't have to be for 40 minutes. A few years ago, we all laughed. A UVA game, their opponent scores 39 points, and they were so defensive dependent. This team is so offensively flexible. I think they can win the ACC regular season, and they can win the ACC tournament. This team is built to win 4 in a row in 4 days. This team is built to win 6 games in 3 weeks. Tony Bennett is sitting on a sleeping giant.
I love that. Going around college hoops with my guy Marcus Mook Washington, making the cut with Mook. Let's stay in the state of Virginia and go to the other squad here in the ACC. That's the Virginia Tech Hokies, who were off to a solid start, 5-0 until last night to Charleston, 77-75. What's your take on the Hokie squad?
Well, until last night, I think the way that they've put in Grant Basile along with Justin Mutch, you're going to get out of them, and they've played well. The last 2 games, though, have concerned me because in both games, not only did they not shoot the 3 well, but they weren't getting to the free throw line. I think in one game they only had 5 attempts, another game they only had like 7 attempts. Virginia Tech has to be able to get to the free throw line, and with the guys that they have, they should be able to get to the free throw line. The 3-point shooting will come. And, they're not the greatest, but they're not the worst. But getting to the free throw line on nights that they're not shooting well is a must, because when we talk about getting in the conference play, that is going to be how they can end up in that top 4, top 5 team. And they certainly have top 4, top 5 talent in the ACC, but they're going to have to do those things on those off nights that can happen on a Wednesday trip to Wake Forest or a Saturday night game at Clemson. It's those type of games that they have it. But let's talk about Charleston just for a second. Charleston has been great this season. When you look at their scheduling, they have beaten both Richmond and Davidson out of the Atlantic 10. Davidson's only loss, they gave North Carolina for 30, 35 minutes. They gave them all kinds of problems. And so, yes, you don't want to lose to Charleston, obviously, whether it's on a neutral floor or in a home game. I don't think it's as bad as a loss as it might seem on the internet. But, yeah, Virginia Tech does have a couple concerns. And, again, it's being able, when you're not shooting the ball well, to get to the free throw line to kind of supplement it.
Absolutely, but it has been a strong start to the season for the program. I'm glad you mentioned Charleston and their big wins over the A-10. Let's talk about the A-10 and their couple games we've got in the A-10 tonight. George Mason faces Buffalo. Can you preview that game for me, Mook?
Yeah, George Mason, those last 2 games for the Patriots have not been what we thought was going to come out of a Kim English coach team. When you look back at Belmont, you blow a lead, you're 5 for 14 from the free throw line, you turn the ball over 17 times. And when you bring in a lot of transfers and you get a grad transfer back in Devin Cooper, those are the things that you don't expect. They only scored 3 points the last 3:14 of the game against Belmont, and that was a 3-pointer by Victor Bailey. I don't think that this team has come out the way I thought that a Kim English team would be. They played so well in the first half of last season. And now this season they start off slow. They played 2 Power 5 teams, and in both games they got punched down in the mouth right out of the locker room at the beginning of the game. Against Auburn, they were down by a lot. Yes, they did cut it to 7 by halftime, and then Auburn stretches it down at the end. Against Boston College, the first half was downright embarrassing. They were down 47-21. This isn't so much about Buffalo today. It's about whether George Mason can play to, and I'm going to use Kim English's word, play to the standard of the program. Because in both wins and losses this year, George Mason has not done that. They look like they are in quicksand. And in the conference this year in Atlantic 10, that's going to provide a lot of trouble for this team.
Absolutely. I'm interested to see what happens when they do get to conference play. Kim English has got to turn it around. VCU struggling after a loss to Memphis. Look, this is what happens, Mook, when you lose your leader and your point guard in Ace Baldwin. I know we have Jaden Nunn, we have Zeb Jackson. Those guys can step in, but when then they step in to play point guard, then you're missing a shooting guard, and the offensive production just has not been good enough. Even in the win against Pittsburgh, even in the loss against Arizona State, we're seeing a theme from VCU this year, which is great defense, but offensively kind of stuttering a little bit.
Yeah, the 13 turnovers in the first half against Memphis really set them back, even though Memphis didn't exactly run away with it. But 26 points off of turnovers for the Tigers. VCU was a little bit better in the second half with the 5 turnovers. But the 36 points in the paint by Memphis is what concerned me, because the Tigers continuously got downhill in that game and got to the front of the rim. And that's something, like you said, with the injuries, that is something that VCU cannot have, because in that situation, you want to be able to lean on your defense just a little bit more. And on the offensive end, you're right. When you don't have Ace Baldwin, everyone else has to pick up. You can't have David Shriver shooting 0 for 9, 0 for 7 from the three-point line against Memphis in a game that, if VCU is completely healthy, that game is coming down to the end, because there's one thing that Memphis cannot do, is they cannot shoot the ball from the outside, which was a disappointing thing, because the defense didn't really make Memphis into a perimeter team. They allowed Memphis to get comfortable. But, with VCU, you got to get Ace Baldwin back. I mean, how important is Ace to this team? We all know how important it is. You're right. There are some things that are starting to show up that are cause for concern, that you hope that when Baldwin gets back, it kind of solves some of it. But Rhodes needs those other guys to be more consistent throughout, whether Baldwin is there or not.
You're listening to AWadd Radio here on the new Sports Radio 910 The Fan, now 105.1 FM, joined by Marcus Washington on the Hadid Mercer Rug Cleaning Hotline. Follow him on Twitter, MTC with Mook. And before I let you go, I've got to ask you about the Maryland Terrapins. Best start to the season in a long time for the Terps.
Well, it's all defensive for Maryland in their wins, especially this weekend against St. Louis, and then the win yesterday. I'm going to tell you what Kevin Willard said at the beginning of the season was he wanted Maryland to play fast. And in the games that we had seen Maryland in, I don't think they had played fast, but something clicked this weekend where that defense got going, and then you saw the power of the offense. Yesterday against Miami, they just did not allow anyone outside of Isaiah Wong to do anything. Offensively, Miami stayed lost. We talk about converting from defense to offense in that quick transition. Maryland did it tremendously this weekend, and it's more than Dante Scott. Don Carey now looks comfortable from the three-point line. Again, when they didn't play against the Power 5 teams before this weekend, he was kind of in. This weekend, he picked it up. Julian Reese, the sophomore, showing more and more versatility from that top of the key end. Kevin Willard has something. I am still concerned when they play a team that has an athletic big or a capable big, what they can do. But as of now, defensively, they have looked great on the perimeter, transitioning from offense to defense. They look great this weekend. And think about how hot St. Louis came into that game. They took Yuri Collins away. They took Jimerson away. They took their big guys away. They took everyone away from Miami except for Wong yesterday. Defense is the name of the game for Maryland, and it's how they're going to have to play fast all year, like Kevin Willard would like for them to play fast.
Love having you on to go around college hoops, man. Thanks so much, Mook.
Thank you.